Good evening, everyone. Good evening. The August 28th meeting of the Newark Public Schools Advisory Board is called to order.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 1046 et sec, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising in the Star Ledger, El Nuevo Coquí, Haiti Progress, and Luz Americana newspapers, and by distribution to the administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of this meeting notice was forwarded to City Hall for posting. This is a regular advisory board meeting for Tuesday night, August 28th, 2012.
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Jeffries.
Here.
Mr. Kenny.
Here.
Dr. Lamore. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Ms. Matthias.
Here.
Dr. McCreary. Ms. Pintor-Marin. Ms. Spate.
Here.
Quorum is present.
You didn't call me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Baskerville-Richardson.
Here.
Quorum is present.
We will now have greetings from Speedway School Principal Atiba Buckman. Okay.
Good evening, Advisory Board, Chair Baskerville-Richardson, Vice Chair Dr. McQuarrie, Superintendent Anderson, Advisory Board members, district staff, students, families, families, and welcome to Speedway. I greet you as the new principal for Speedway School, and I just wanted to take a minute to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in education for 16 years. I've been a vice principal, a director of curriculum, a dean of students, a teacher, most importantly to me. And I believe in hard work, rewarding success, improving on challenges, taking advantage of opportunities, formulating effective working relationships. And on behalf of the students that I serve, my mantra has been for the last 16 years, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. So basically, I'm never satisfied. I intend for the students and the community that I serve to always understand that we can always be better and that someone else's floor is someone else's ceiling. So we're always going to be striving for better. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, aunt, a colleague, and a wife, and I think all of those roles have helped me to become an effective leader. My plan, my vision, and my hope is that all of the people present here, even if this is not your home-based school, would always know that you have a home at Speedway and you can always add to the success that we're going to have. Chair Baskerville-Richardson, sorry, and to the entire board, I look forward to meeting all of you, and personally, I look forward to the beginning of our school year here at Speedway. Although I don't see her, I would like to thank Ms. Valerie Merritt, who came to the school, and she introduced herself, and she just, helped to explain the entire process. So I'm very excited, and I'd like to thank her even if she isn't here. I wish you guys a very productive meeting this evening. And if you have any questions, again, know you have a home at Speedway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now have the approval of the minutes, June 20th, 2012, Special Advisory Board Meeting, Ethics Workshop. Are we doing them separately? Okay. And the minutes from the March 29th, 2012 Public Budget Hearing Meeting.
Chair, I think there's a correction. It says chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Kenny.
Chairperson Shavar Jeffries on March 29th.
Yes, I did see that also. And okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, would the board members rather vote on these separately because some of you might not have been on the board at that time?
Yeah, I think
All right.
that would be correct. So we're going to look first at the June 20th, 2012. In that correction, which minutes were you referring to?
March 29th.
Okay, so first we're going to vote on the June 20th, 2012 Special Advisory Board Meeting and Ethics Workshop.
Is there a motion? Motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
This is a motion to approve the minutes of 6/20/12 Special Advisory Board meeting, moved by Matthias, second by Spate. Mr. Jeffries? Yes. Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Matthias?
Yes.
Dr. McCreary? Ms. Spate? Ms. Baskel-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we will look at the minutes for March 29th, 2012 Public Budget Hearing Meeting. And Mr. Kenny, could you just repeat that correction, please?
Simple correction. In the beginning, it says Chairperson Sherrod Jeffries. It should be Ileana Pinto Marin.
Thank you. So correction.
Is there a motion to approve those minutes with that correction?
Second.
Ms. Spate. And who's second?
Mr. Lewis, second.
Yes.
I have a motion to approve the 3/29/12 minutes with the correction as noted by Mr. Kenny, moved by Spate, second by Mr. Lewis. Mr. Jeffries? Yes. Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Matthias?
Abstain.
Ms. Spate?
Yes.
Ms. Baskel-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just have a question because I know this affects CUSAC, but is there a reason why the March 29th minutes are just being approved in August?
I can't answer that. I think that is a legitimate concern because, you know, there is an issue with CUSAC that the minutes be done in a timely manner. So I don't know if anyone can address that, but it is absolutely a legitimate concern. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
You indicated you might have something to add to the conversation? I think at this point, we don't have anything to add. It is so noted that the minutes are late and it does affect CUSAC. We will ensure that we have our minutes on time.
Thank you. We will move to item 6, report of the advisory board chairperson. At this time, I would like to present 2 resolutions. I would like to present 2 resolutions to the board. And the first resolution is a resolution that was initiated by the community. It is a resolution to name the field house at Weequahic High School after former coach Bernie Lee Adams. Just in summation, Mr. Adams was an educator in Newark beginning in 1963, head football coach of Weequahic High School for 26 years. And the resolution speaks to to his innovative leadership, including the hiring of assistant coach Lorraine White, who was the first certified female football coach in the state of New Jersey. It speaks to the success of the Weequahic High School football program, which was featured in both the New York Times, Star Ledger, and that Mr. Adams also founded Weequahic High School Booster Club and the Weequahic High School Fathers Club. And the impact that Mr. Adams has had on the lives of students through the Weequahic High School football program, both male and female students. And whereas the Fathers Club at Weequahic High School has formally requested that the newly renovated field house at Underman Field be named in his honor. And here I'm reading directly, of course, from the resolution. Whereas the Newark Public Schools Advisory Board agrees and does hereby authorize the naming of the newly renovated Weequahic High School field house at Underman Field as the Bernie Lee Adams Field House. And now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the newly renovated Weequahic High School Weequahic High School field house at Underman Field shall henceforth be known as the Bernie Lee Adams Field House in recognition of Mr. Adams' vision, dedicated service, and so forth and so on. And I would like to entertain a motion on that resolution.
A motion.
Okay. A couple of motions. I did see Mr. Jeffries' hand up first. I did hear Mr. Lewis. So.
Mr. Lewis is moving?
Yes.
You second, Mr. Jeffries?
Okay.
Okay, it's a motion to name the Weequahic Fieldhouse as described by the board chair, moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Jeffries? Yes. Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Mattias?
Yes.
Ms. Spate?
Yes.
Ms. Baskerville-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Chair? You
Yes,
mind
Mr.
if
Kenny.
I share a word regarding Bernie Adams?
Yes, go ahead.
I am I'm a graduate of Weequahic High School, and my brother played for Bernie Adams in 92, 93. And I think that was the last year before they stopped the traditional Thanksgiving games, where Weequahic defeated Shabazz. And also the band outperformed their band as well. So I just wanted to recognize that, when I was in high school, Bernie Adams was definitely a great public servant to the city of Newark, while also working for Councilman Donald Bradley as well. And also I had the opportunity to play for Bernie Adams, but I just couldn't see myself on the football field getting hit hard. But I definitely like to recognize that Bernie Adams, his program regarding the Fathers Club are doing some tremendous things in the Weequahic section. And if you ever get a chance, if you're alumni or if you're someone that want to be involved, their program has done a lot of things in terms of raising money to help put scholarship money into the hands of young people, especially book money as well. And so if you have any resources, two young men have grown the program, have taken over the program, and recruited a number of people within inside the city of Newark, inside the community. So Bernie Adams lives on not only in the field, but also with his active service through the Fathers Club. And I encourage everyone to, if you have some resources, if you have anything, be involved in the Fathers Club. One of the greatest things is to have men involved in the lives of their children, especially fathers. So it's an honor that was long overdue, and I'm proud to be a part of this process as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Just on one last note, the induction will take place at the football game on Thanksgiving. That is the plan. The next resolution is the resolution to televise advisory board meetings. And the resolution reads, whereas regular monthly meetings of the advisory board are videotaped, and whereas the advisory board desires to make the proceedings viewable to the members of the public who cannot attend, now therefore it is hereby resolved that the district will broadcast a taped version of the entire unedited monthly regular meeting of the advisory board on the Newark Educational Public Access Cable Television, Channel 77, on a schedule to be determined.
Motion.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Mr. Lewis?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kenny?
This motion to televise the meetings is read by Madam Chair, moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Kenny. Mr. Jeffries? Yes. Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Mattias?
Yes.
Ms. Spate. Ms. Baskel-Richardson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes. Mr. Jeffries.
I just wanted to commend my colleague, Mr. Lewis, who I know has been pursuing this issue for a few years now and who worked very hard. I know he did some work looking at school boards throughout the state in terms of their policies with respect to videotaping meetings and has pursued this for a couple of years. So I think he deserves credit for continuing to pursue this so they can provide more transparency so that more people in the community have a feel for what's happening at the boards. I want to commend Mr. Lewis for his work on that.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. I just want to take a second just to emphasize that this is an opportunity in terms of the televising of our board meetings, and it is also an added responsibility of our entire community. That is our community of observers and our community of board members and staff for us to show our city and our school system in the most I don't know what the word is, but just to show us at our best as a community at work, a serious community at work on education. Thank you. We will now have item 7, the report of the State District Superintendent. Board members, we may want to move down so that we can see.
Okay, I'm actually going to, thank you, step up here so I don't have to put my back to folks. Happy end of summer, everyone. I can't believe we're on the precipice of a new school year. I'm a little bit in denial, the summer's almost over. We've been busy through some exciting pieces this summer at Newark Public Schools. So we're very happy to bring you this report, and increasingly we will attempt to bring senior leaders at Newark Public Schools to these reports so that you're hearing from a variety of folks, not just me. But we had a busy summer, an exciting summer, and one where we made a great deal of progress. So I'm going to kick us off. I forgot my clicker at first, but I have it now. We're going to give you a brief update on our priorities and highlight a few things that folks often want to know at this time of year. Hopefully everyone is becoming accustomed to seeing this pyramid. At the top, we have students. By the way, I just learned how to use this pointer this summer. It's pretty useful, right? So at the top, we have students being ready to graduate from college, graduate from high school with college-level skill. We've got developing effective professionals in every classroom, transformational school leaders, NPS central team, top-tier options for all students, and engaging families and the community to contribute to the success of our students. So every month we aim to kind of update you on each of these pillars, and we focus on those that are most topical and important for the particular month that we're reporting. I'm going to share our principal hiring update, and then I'm going to invite our school business administrator, Valerie Wilson, up to do the facilities update. We this year had 18 vacancies, and through a rigorous process that had about 150 people in the pipeline at various points. 3 parts, written interview, an in-person interview, a day-long session, a final interview with me, reference checks, Lots of steps. We are thrilled to be fully staffed with all of our new principals, and the bios and the introduction of all of these individuals is on our website, so if you want to read more about each of them. But they all have fantastic and robust backgrounds in education, much like Ms. Buckman, who you heard from this evening. So we feel very excited about our new crop of administrators, and we did a great deal of training this summer with all of our principals, new and existing, on teacher evaluation, the Common Core, and a whole bunch of other exciting initiatives. So like I said, these are also on our website, and you can find bios for anyone who's interested in learning more about them. I am now going to pass the microphone over to Val, who's going to talk further about all the facilities work that we did this summer and some other operational readiness items for school opening.
Good evening, Chair Baskerville, Superintendent Anderson, Advisory Board members. Thanks, Cami. This summer has been an exceptionally busy one for our facilities and operational staff. Let me go through the facility highlights first. Actually, last year at this time, we were trying to develop a contingency plan to recover from a major hit from Hurricane, was it Irene? I can't remember them anymore. Isaac's coming as we speak. And this time this year, I'm happy to announce that beginning tomorrow, the SDA will begin, as a matter of fact, they will be kicking off that major project, which is the phase 2 of the Wilson Avenue revamping, which involves exterior masonry, waterproofing, and a significant window replacement project. And as I've said, it's phase 2 of the work that we did to get Wilson Avenue students back into their classrooms in January. Science Park High School, the SDA is currently doing a floor replacement project there. That project is slightly behind schedule. Since this deck was put together, we have put into place our contingency plan. Science Park High School will be open on time with all floors replaced properly, and children will be in school on day 1. Old Speedway School, we have opened, I forget how many seats, but an early childhood program there. As a matter of fact, I think tomorrow they will be doing a family fun day there, and will be registering. Parents can come with their appropriate documents, their children, and can register for a brand revamped, actually, Old Speedway, which will house our early childhood program. That creates additional seats in the district. We also created additional seats in the Clinton Avenue location. Elliott Street, Oliver, and South, I am happy to tell you that there is a working group made up of Newark staff members, including myself and Steve Morlino, the Executive Director of Facilities, and we are working with the SDA on both the educational specifications for those schools as well as the facility layout and designs. Oliver and Elliott will probably move forward as twins and will come online. I'm not going to say the date because I don't want to commit to one that I don't have firmed up, but will come online in probably another 2 years, 2 to 3, and South will follow closely behind. Roger Leone is also working with that group on the educational specifications. Ridge Street and Hawkins Street. The SDA announced earlier this year in the spring some 31 emergent projects that they will be doing in Newark. Included in those are boilers at the Ridge Street and Hawkins Street location. At Sussex, we are also doing a major project which will replace unit heaters to improve the heating in the Sussex Avenue School. In terms of all of our schools, summer cleaning has been in full operation with the conclusion of the summer school program. My staff have been out into schools, and we are visiting to ensure that schools are ready. We are on target for all schools to be ready for opening on August 29th. We've done a significant amount of work. There is quite a bit of work around technology associated with the Renew schools. In addition, we will be doing technology installations in many of our other schools besides Renew's, beginning with the first week of school and probably going right through until I think it's the end of October. I can tell you that in the Renew schools, we've put in some 240 smart boards. They're slated to get tablets. They're slated to get laptops. We are looking for a significant infusion of technology into the curriculum. We've been busy with ensuring that schools are cleaned, ensuring that all systems are operational, that we have staff in place, and we intend to be ready for day one. Superintendent Anderson?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mitch Center. I'm here as one of the new assistant superintendents. I'm proud to be here this evening. Thank you for having me. I'm here to talk about the new teacher evaluation system. As the superintendent described, our ultimate goal is to ensure that all students graduate college ready. And in getting at how we'll do this, we are looking at cultivating transformational school leaders and developing effective professionals in every classroom. One of the ways and priorities, rather, of developing effective professionals in every classroom, we went about designing a new teacher evaluation system for the year, whose primary goal is to develop and support teachers, and whose other goal is also to help us identify and retain the best teachers so that the most effective teachers are staying in classrooms, so that we are celebrating and learning from their successes so that we're rewarding them. Several people had input into this new teacher evaluation system. After feedback from over 500 educators in Newark, including the DPAC committee, the District Evaluation Policy Advisory Committee, which was comprised of teachers and administrators. We had focus groups with teachers, focus groups with administrators, several workshops through the summer and spring, and as well as engaging the union leadership. Led us to a new rubric that follows these principles. This new framework is the first that we know of to be aligned to the Common Core's national standards, following its theme of fewer, clearer, and higher. So we are focusing on fewer competencies in our rubric, meaning that we identified those key teaching practices that most impact student achievement, and we're going to focus on those. We have a clearer focus and used more precise and concise language to describe what each competency looks like, and the focus on higher, elevating expectations of teachers to ensure that rigorous instruction happens in every classroom. The new evaluation system still follows what we know about best practices about improving teacher practice. So this slide here is something that was actually developed with Newark principals over the last year or so, and it focuses on the qualities of what effective feedback to teachers looks like, and in that it is tailored, and so that teachers are getting individualized support from their principals. It's evidence-based, meaning it's based on evidence of what teachers say and do and what students produce to demonstrate their learning. It's aligned in that the feedback that principals are sharing with their teachers is aligned to the rubric that we're using. It's consistent, meaning that a teacher in one school is consistently evaluated by whichever administrator is observing and evaluating him or her, as well as teachers across the district will be observed and will receive feedback consistently. And it's heard, meaning that we are emphasizing to principals in their trainings and with teachers that the feedback that they're receiving and giving should be a conversation and should be two ways. So we are really emphasizing these important instructional conversations between principals and their teachers. So this year, our rubric, looking at the circle all the way on the left, is focusing on what is observable in teachers' instruction, in that the rubric focuses exclusively on what can be seen in the classroom. We will be piloting some other measures, including measures of professionalism and student satisfaction, and some potential tools there are student surveys and a professionalism rubric. And moving into the future, as the nation works to develop PARC assessments that are aligned to the Common Core, we will follow the state and federal guidelines on how to use student outcomes as part of teachers' evaluations. So that's what we're looking forward to in the future.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Trinami. I'm also an assistant superintendent here at Newark Public Schools. And I'll Tia, want to introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Tia Morris, and I'm the Chief Family and Community Engagement Officer here at Newark Public Schools.
Tia and I are going to report out on the progress we've made with the Renew Schools to date. 4 key highlights I'd like to mention. First, starting with our 8 principals. Dating back to May 22nd, 8 really stellar school years were identified and engaged in a training process that helped them put together and design each one of their Renew schools. We are extremely excited about these 8 school leaders. They all have different strengths in different areas, but there's one common thread throughout all of them. That is this fierce urgency and belief that all kids can and will achieve at high levels. And that is just a key element of all of these 8 Renew schools that we're very, very pleased about. Second relates to staffing. Over the course of the summer, these leaders have been engaged in interviewing and staffing their schools so that every teacher in that school has gone through a rigorous interview process as they begin to now implement their new design plans, which have a premium and are putting a premium on their new mission, vision, and core values. At the end of the summer, what the leaders have done is engaged in very targeted professional development that's focused on the alignment of their new staff with these mission, vision, and core values that are articulated in these new design plans. And as the school year opens, the staff, the leaders will be very much engaged in the building in intentional ways their new school cultures that are very much focused on student outcomes, very much focused on the belief that all kids can and will achieve at very high levels. And we're very pleased to share every one of the 8 Renew schools will be partnering to implement a data-driven instruction model so that the use of data will be an integral part of the school culture in all 8 of these schools as they administer interim assessments throughout the year to monitor the progress of every single student. So those are some of the key highlights that we have for the Renew schools to date. I would just also mention that we are very much in the early stages of a multi-year process with Renew. We're very pleased with the progress that we've made to date. It's been a huge lift that's been done, but we also fully recognize that the success of our Renew schools will very much be determined by the work we remain committed to over the next several years as we continue to enhance the programs and support our students, our teachers, and our leaders to ensure great outcomes for all of the students. And then Ms. Morris is going to elaborate on some of the work done on community engagement side this summer.
So part of what has been discussed from the very beginning of the initial proposal way back in the spring to the actual hiring of the principals and the beginning of the planning stage of the school is that all of these schools would engage in a rigorous process to ensure that their communities not only continue to build the culture as Dr. Tamian outlined, with their school communities, but that they involve their communities in their design process. So all the while principals were engaging in their school design process, they were bringing these same steps to their families, to their communities, and simultaneously involving them in the process, getting their feedback on different aspects of that process, and including that in their final, or what is now their working plans. We provided consistent support to all 8 schools, including technical support, training, and coaching to ensure that they could engage in a rigorous and robust process with their families. This included training, including stakeholder identification, helping them identify various stakeholders within the immediate area surrounding their schools, potential partners in their neighborhoods that they could work with, and assistance with outlining canvassing plans, door-to-door outreach, putting together surveys with their school communities, putting together mechanisms to gather information of various sources. One of those things was a scope and sequence of actual meeting topics to ensure that there were various topics that families had an opportunity to weigh in on. So, for example, the families had an opportunity to weigh in on systems, policies, school culture, other aspects of the school. It included providing for the principals meeting protocols, so ensuring that they had all of the materials they needed, agendas, supports to help them with flow of the meetings, facilitators to assist with the meetings in some cases, as well as all of the materials they would need to facilitate the meeting, and the securing of some resources to help them ensure that they have the things that they need at the meeting to make them successful. Every school engaged in between 4 and 8 meetings, including meet and greets, some actual planning meetings, as well as barbecues. There are schools that are still having reveal meetings underway this week, as well as schools that are still engaging in some family culture building events such as barbecues. Schools had various events, some boasting as much as, for example, Camden held one of their meetings at Central High School where they had dinner with the principal, where they boasted over 120 attendees there, and they utilized the support of their parents who were coming to initial meetings who wanted to make sure that they boosted attendance at those meetings. So they went door to door. They did mailings, which we assisted them with to ensure that they could increase the attendance at those meetings. Or, for example, Cleveland, who, after having low turnout at some initial meetings, decided to, again, use her family base who was attending those meetings to help her go to door, to help her canvass, help her with mailings as well as outreach. And their reveal meeting occurred last week, and they had 3 times as many attendees as at previous meetings. And there's been extensive work with community partners. For example, at Sussex, where they're receiving a large portion of the Burnett population, the principal's been working closely with the Y to ensure that those families who are in emergency housing have access to planning as well as their needs are met. So meeting with them there on site, as well as obviously inviting them to the meetings held at the school. And so there have been numerous modes of outreach which will continue. This is just the beginning, as Dr. Tanamian outlined. This is just the beginning of a multi-tiered process, but one in which the schools intend to keep families as well as the surrounding community engaged and continually involved in the ongoing planning of the school. I do want to point out that we do recognize that there were some concerns expressed by the board last week with regard to notice about some of these events. We've already taken steps to rectify that, to ensure that you are notified in a timely fashion of all such events that we find out about, that we are getting the information from the principals and providing them to you in a timely manner to ensure that that's no longer an issue.
Madam Chair.
If any board members have questions on the superintendent's deck, we'd like
Madam
to
Chair.
take a few minutes to entertain those questions. Mr. Lewis?
First, I wanted to ask about the renewal schools. As far as the hiring process, because we know that a lot of these leaders are new to the community. They're new to the schools. So how were they able to actually staff their school if they didn't know the history of the school or the potential of the people who were already in the school and of the people who were in the pool? So how was the hiring done in an effective manner?
The new schools all had to submit hiring plans that the district monitored carefully, that it required them to articulate their selection criteria, the way in which they were going to use that selection criteria. Some of them actually formed committees, others didn't, but every hiring process required that they actually interview and do outreach to the existing staff before they were allowed to look outside of the existing staff.
My reason for asking that, because if I come into a situation and I don't know the culture and the history of the situation in which I'm stepping into, how do I know how to effectively put together a strong staff in order to make sure that every child is educated in my building? So my concern is that there was no one put with these people who with experience, who been in these schools, who know the community, who know the surrounding areas. For example, if I don't, for example, I feel as though, like at Cleveland Street School, even though the principal there is a seasoned principal, she's been in this community, but if you put a new principal in there, they wouldn't know that Pilgrim Village is a place you don't want to walk through at night. So you wouldn't want to campus it at night. You wouldn't want to knock on people's doors at a certain time and bother them at a certain time because people get grumpy at a certain time. So my whole concern is folks who are very seasoned, who are effective leaders and teachers in this building already, not getting a fair opportunity to keep their job, and people who are not as effective as them being hired and put in their position. And my other concern is, Madam Superintendent, you wasn't here last week. Some of these numbers are fudged or wrong about how many people attended these meetings. Some of the leaders of these organizations I have personally spoke to and said that these amount of people were not at attendance at these meetings. So this it's kind of hard to really trust the process when people are giving us fudge numbers and giving us false information. How can we really trust the process if people are not giving us the truth? And that's all I, as a board member, as a person who sits on this board, that's all I ask for anybody that come before me. Tell me the truth so I can trust you. Because if you come before me and you tell me false information and I find out it's false information, I'm going to continue. I'm not going to be able to believe everything you say, and I'm going to question whatever you tell me. So I just feel that we was misled by some of this information. Madam Superintendent, I don't blame you because you wasn't the one that put this information together, but I just ask that if people want to give us information, give us real facts and real information.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Board members, I just want to note that we don't usually entertain questions on the superintendent's deck at the regular meeting, but we are doing so today. So if you could please focus on specific questions dealing with the superintendent's deck, because we have an entire agenda to go through, and it's a lengthy agenda. So if there are any other questions pertaining to the superintendent's deck, Ms. Matthias and then Dr. McCreary.
My question is on two different parts, so I'll ask the first one. As far as the technology installations, it was stated it's going to begin in September and go throughout October in the other schools outside of the Renew schools. Do we know how many schools that's going to be and what grades?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Are you asking how many regular schools?
How many outside of the Renew schools, yes.
I don't have the list handy with me, but I know that there are over 200 boards that I know of right now, and schools are, with their budgets open, are now also purchasing additional technology. So I would say, looking at the list from what I can remember, I'd say it's over 20, 25 of our schools.
And we'll be able to get a list at some point?
I do have a list, and
Okay.
I'd be happy to provide it, just didn't bring it tonight.
Okay. And then the second part of my question deals directly with the Renew schools. What percentage of staffing are we at in terms of, those Renew schools, particularly in the content areas?
Talking about hiring?
Yeah. Are we going to be fully staffed on the first day of school?
We will be fully staffed on the first day of school.
Okay. And the last thing was in regards to the community meetings. I know that there was a lot of work done over the summer. I'm just not really sure if people understood what the purpose was, so if we can kind of get an explanation of what the community meetings were meant to do, and if they're going to continue, how we can be helpful in making sure that we get parents and stakeholders out there.
We're happy to send you all, ooh, I don't know what's going on up here, sorry. Ouch. I have a crazy, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Morris, could you just speak to what the purpose of the community meetings, what the objective was? I don't.
So sure, the purpose of the community meetings were to allow families as well as the surrounding communities that are part of that school community to weigh in on the school design process. And so there were various topics that the school leaders discussed with their community, whether it was mission vision, whether it was the core values, policies, systems in the school calendar, all aspects of the school design plan. And families had an opportunity to weigh in on those aspects of the design plan.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, because I thought the slide said that the mission and vision was done in May.
I'm sorry, to Ms. Morris, is it?
No.
No? Is this is still in reference to the?
To the Renew schools. Mr., I think it's Pete, okay. Yeah, so it said the mission and vision was done in May, so how much off from that, and if I'm incorrect, please, let me know, but how much were the families able to weigh in if that part was done in May?
Let me I'll clarify.
Okay.
I'll clarify. What Assistant Superintendent Terrain was saying is that those were the topics that were covered in training.
Okay.
Not that that's when they were done. In other words, that what he showed on that slide was a curriculum of the training of the principals.
Okay.
So the principals came together. We looked at best-in-class design plans. Any good design plans has those 9 elements or however many elements were on that list. I'd have to count them. Each session was dedicated to our school leaders learning about, reading about, and hearing samples from other schools that have achieved really high levels of success, taking all that in, and then using that as an opportunity to reflect and begin their plan. The plan itself then was shared with and commented on and discussed with folks at formal meetings and informal meetings. So what you saw on that list was the training curriculum for the principals. The other purpose that I know Ms. Morris supported this summer, in addition to the planning and the plan creation, if you will, the blueprint, was community building. So some of the sessions that I attended on Saturday were very much just about meet and greet, building momentum, and the canvassing and door knocking that occurred is something that I had several families approach me and say they'd never experienced. They were thrilled just to see. Some of those were just much more open-ended, just about getting to know one another and creating a sense of positive momentum and bringing the community out to the school.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Was there another hand on this? Yes, Dr. McCrary.
Yeah, I apologize. I have a couple of questions, and I guess it's not completely spelled out in the presentation that was given, so just clarity would be helpful. On one slide, it says that I'm specifically speaking to the teacher evaluation. And on one slide, it says that the teacher evaluation is a new evaluation system that is starting in the fall of 2012. But on another slide, and I'm not sure if it was only a piece of it or the entire evaluation process, it says that 2012, 2013 will be a pilot. So is 2012 and 2013 an entire pilot program, one? Two, have the teachers themselves, I guess, been forwarded a copy of what this evaluation looks like? And moving forward, to what degree will the teacher evaluation impact one way or another, not only professional development, but how do you say, their job security moving forward? Because when you're getting an evaluation, it's important that teachers are also given the ability to correct these deficiencies, and that usually doesn't happen over the course of a 3 or 6 month time period. So again, I'm not necessarily saying that it's not here. I just don't see it. And again, as a teacher, I would love to know what I'm being evaluated on, how it's going to look moving forward, so that we're all on the same page and there are no surprises come June.
So I'm sure as a teacher, you would agree that you're always most motivated when you teach alongside folks who are of high quality. So part of the mission and our singular focus here is to have schools where everyone has that opportunity, regardless of the type of school. The entire framework goes live across the system, and the main reason why that was the case is we heard a lot of feedback from administrators and teachers and other districts that have gone through framework transitions that running two concurrently, in fact, creates more confusion than it solves. So the pilot, the only reason why I use the words pilot is because this year it's the framework, there's no SGP data currently. So why I indicated a pilot means things like student surveys and SGP are not currently in there, but the framework goes live for everyone. Teachers have had forums. There have been 3 or 4. We have something called Teacher Talk that I know several people on this board read, that has previewed the process, has previewed the evaluation criterion. We trained every school administrator this summer over a 5-day session. We are going to train every vice principal and department chair, I believe, this week. We also allowed every school to recruit or to identify 5 to 7 teachers from their school team to also get training on the framework. The framework itself is posted on the website. We blasted out the website to every teacher in the district. The rubrics, the individualized professional development plan, the coaching criterion, and all of that is also up there. And we've written directly to teachers to ensure we're driving traffic to that site, and it actually gets a lot of hits because people are understanding that's the portal to get all the information.
Mr. Lewis and then Ms. Spade.
Also, I have a question about a concern with the teacher hiring. I work downtown in the downtown area, and last week it was a rush of new teachers going into 2 Cedar Street for IDs. I spoke with one of the new teachers who happened to be an Eagles fan, so we started talking about football. And the young man came back out and he started talking to me again, and he said, I'm here because I'm a new teacher in Newark Public Schools. He said, but you know what's ironic? In Newark Public Schools are majority Black and Latino students, but there were only 3 Black new teachers up there getting IDs. That is a concern. as a board member, as an African American, who have both sides in my family, Black and Latino, it's a concern if a child don't see someone that look like them inside the classroom or inside the building. So maybe it's the new outside source company, hiring source company we have, or I don't know what's going on. Maybe I just want to make sure that we're doing a fair share of hiring between all races, Black, Latino, Puerto Rican, Haitian, all types of people are being hired. This is just a concern of mine, Madam Superintendent. I know to some people it's a small concern, but to me it's a major concern, because in a community like this in Newark, New Jersey, where our children are told constantly that nothing good come out of the city of Newark, nothing that look like you is gold. It's a concern of mine that our children don't see African American and Latino people in leadership or in their classroom teaching them. So, Madam Superintendent, I just want to know what's your plans on trying to make sure that our district is more diverse and that it reflects your leadership team along with people that's inside the classroom, reflect the diversity of this city, from the East Ward to the North Ward to the South Ward to the Central Ward, all the way to the West Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Spate?
And
Ms. Spate and then Mr. Jeffries.
In reference to the Renew Schools, as far as the special education component of it, how many special education classrooms were moved? Were there any special educations in Dayton Street School or 13th Avenue School? And would they be, if so, are they consolidating to Peshawn or Chancellor Avenue?
In general, we have our Executive Director of Special Education who can share more specifics with you.
Okay.
If you would like, but in general, we tried to, this year in particular, consolidate and keep special ed continuum together.
Okay.
As we've talked about before, those concentrations in if most of the existing and feeder schools are already very high. And that's something that Dr. Katzman and I are very dedicated to addressing over time.
Okay.
But that will involve movement for families. So you have to trade off concentration with movement, and that's just not something we want to do. You know, we want to do it very carefully so we don't, we address some of the concentration challenges, but we also don't do it in such a way that moves so many families that we cause some challenges there as well. So Dr. Katzman has a whole plan around this. I'm sure she can share it with you, and we'll take some steps, but we want to do it, you know, planfully and carefully, because the last thing we want to do is try to decrease concentrations, but then cause, you know, so much movement that it may put hardship onto the family.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Jeffries?
Actually, I think it would be useful to get the facts, because I share Mr. Lewis's idea about how important it is for our young people to see people who look like them, particularly in the community, particularly for people of color who have a whole culture that suggests that they aren't as good as certain kinds of other people. They aren't as smart, they aren't as beautiful, they aren't as talented. But I'm more interested in the facts, because I don't want a misimpression to create a false impression in the community. So I'd be interested, could we just get a report on the facts of what is the diversity of our teachers, our principals, because I think it's a very important point, but we don't want to have people have a misunderstanding.
Not a problem. We can include the diversity numbers for our teaching administrative team, and we can break it down between existing hires and new hires. I would say we're all very committed to diversity and to quality, and we made sure that there was a diverse recruiting effort this year, as is always the case.
Mr. Kinney, and after Mr. Kinney, we will move on the agenda.
I have a question regarding the community engagement. I see we have several partnerships, and I know one of the partnerships, well, one of the identified partnerships will be in our minutes regarding voting on, I guess, it's a contract they're looking to have with the district. Are these paid partnerships regarding specifically Brick and Peshon, Dr. Martin Luther King Community Association Equipment, and I think that's the only two partnerships and also City Without Walls. Are these paid partnerships or are these partnerships in kind?
Just go ahead. I don't know the specific answer. Depends, is the answer.
So City Without Walls is a partnership specifically at 13th Avenue in order to build or create a mural to unite the students who are being integrated into the school community. So it is not a paid by the district. It is of no cost to the school at all, but it is a project that is attempted at community building for all of the students who will be part of that new school. Brick has been serving, I can't speak as much to this, but Brick has been serving as a partner in terms of whole school design with Peshon, offering them technical assistance and support, similar to what they've done at Avon.
Thank you.
And also, Dr. Martin Luther King Association? Oh,
Specific to the partnership planned equipment, I don't have knowledge of whether or not that's a paid partnership at this point. If we determine that it will be, we can certainly share those details with you.
okay, so Brick, my understanding on what we're saying is Brick is no, there's no.
So let me just clarify the different types. If there's paid partnerships that come up for resolutions, there are in-kind partnerships that have to do with community-based agencies. There's whole school design work, which means that person is partnering deeply, and those may be paid partnerships with the district, just like they've been in the past. And then there may be other community-based partners where they also have their mission and they're just pushing into the school. So it depends on, I don't think we have a resolution for Brick.
So the relationship, the resolution that we're voting for, I think it's P34, if I'm not mistaken. I know Brick is one of the 5. It's not affected by this partnership at all in terms of whole school design. It is. Okay, the question is that I see we have a partnership with Brick, and I know there's a resolution that's coming aboard regarding a resolution for a contract with Brick and 4 other partners. Is that going to affect our future partnership with Brick or no in terms of how we design Peshon Avenue School?
Do you know which item that is? No, it's not.
P31.
Pre-qualification solicitation for strategic school design.
You're asking if Brick is a partner that applied through our PQS process to support us in doing whole school design. They help do outreach. They help bring expertise of having turned around previous schools. So I'm not sure. So that's the PQS that they went through means that they met the bar. We awarded them a contract, and they will be a partner at Peshon.
Mr. Kennedy, that's it. Okay, thank you very much. We will, yes.
A last question. I know I wanted to follow with Marquise and Shavar. Also, if there could be more information regarding the residency of the people who applied for those positions, how many are Newark residents, as well as the ones who have been hired or Newark residents as well. I think that would be more helpful to give us a full picture as to the diversity that our superintendent is committed to.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
So I think he wanted a response.
To the extent we can do it, I have to look and see what the data allows us to do. So I know we can do basic pieces, but we'll take a look.
Mr. Lewis,
Just one last question.
Okay, because Mr. Kenny was the last speaker because we have to move on the agenda, so
Just
please.
last question. Can we also find out how many tenured principals are in the pool, and how many new principals were hired?
Okay. Okay, we will now move to the report of the student representative. Did you have a report? I'm sorry,
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Advisory board members, State District Superintendent Ms. Anderson, me, Ms. Daring, and Mr. Kenny have been working closely together on the initiative.
Excuse me, I just want to interrupt you because I didn't say your name. So we will now have the report from the student representative, Mr. Angel Plaza.
Thank you. Me, Ms. Daring, and Mr. Kenny have been working very closely together on an initiative that will advance the Student Leadership Group, also known as SLG. Because schools haven't picked their class officers yet, and they won't pick them until about October, we've been given the luxury of developing a high-level plan for the first 3 months of gathering class officers. Once they get their class officers in place, we can then contact the school principals so they can send them over to us and we can invite them to join SLG. If everything goes right, we hope to have the first SLG meeting in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like a plan. Questions? We will now move into the voting items on our agenda. First section is academic services. We will be voting on numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second.
This is a motion for voting on academic services items 1 and 2 and 4 through 7, moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Pinto Marin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That motion carries.
Next, we will vote on item 3 in academic services. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second. Either works.
It's a motion to vote on academic services item number 3, stand and deliver, moved by Mr. Lewis, second by Ms. Mathias. Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Mathias?
Yes.
Dr. McCreary?
Yes.
Ms. Spate?
Yes.
Ms. Baskel-Richardson?
Abstain.
Motion carries. I'm sorry. Mr. Jeffries, your vote was a yes? Ms. Pinto Marin?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Just want to make sure it's on record.
I got you. Apologies.
Okay, we're moving on to finance. There are 48 finance items.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to do a separate vote on P14 and P15.
P14
And P15.
and P15.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Just a minute. Just a minute, Ms. Mathias. Yes, Ms. Mathias?
Can we pull 11, 41, and 45 for a separate vote?
I'm sorry?
11,
Are you saying item 11 or P11?
Item 11. 41,
Item 11,
which is I'm sorry, no, item 21, P11.
P11. Okay. And what else?
Item 41, P31. And item 45.
Wait, I'm sorry, just a minute. Let me just get the numbers. Okay, I'm sorry, you said P11, what else?
P31.
And,
P35.
okay, now let me just ask, just for clarity, do you want to pull those items for a separate vote, or do you want discussion on those
Just
items prior to
discussion-
voting?
Yeah, discussion on those items prior to voting. I did submit some questions, so I just wanted to see if we had got some feedback yet.
Okay, so that's P,
11,
P35, P31, P35, P11,
P11, P31, and P35.
okay, and Mr. Lewis, on P14 and P15, you want to pull those for separate vote, or do you simply have questions that you need answered on those?
No, I just stated last week that I'm not going to vote on no consultants until I get my consultant list.
So, Mr. Lewis, the answer then is that you want to pull those items?
Yes.
Thank you. So, we want to Okay, so we're going to open up the floor for discussion and questions on the finance items. We can work our way down, whatever ones you have a question. Okay, so we'll start with number 1. Any questions on number 1? Number 2? Number 3? Okay. Which ones do you have questions on, but we'll keep it in order. So let's start. There may be questions on others. I don't know. Mr. Jeffries?
Can we ask questions about anything, or are you segregating this into different different discussions, Madam Chair?
Well, what we're trying to do, I think, is to go in numerical order. So, you know,
Madam
maybe
Chair,
if we...
might I make a suggestion? Would you like to vote where you can ask for discussion on the items which board members have not identified and then vote on those as a block, accepting the ones which they have identified, and then we can take individual conversation on those and then they can vote.
We can do that. That might simplify it. So is there any discussion on any of the items other than those that were noted, which are P11, P24, I'm sorry.
P11,
P11,
P14, P31, and
Right.
P35.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
You're welcome.
Is there discussion on any other of the items? Discussion or questions?
P11, P14. It's only 4? P31, P35?
And then P14, 14, and 15. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
P33 as well, just like to get some more information about.
P33.
Yes.
All right, so
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, just so that we can be orderly, is this about one of the ones that we have not pulled?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question about the resolution for the parking agreement.
What number is that?
Number 8, the resolution for September 1st, 2012 through August 31st, 2014.
Okay.
Now, I know that...
I'm sorry, just a minute, Mr. Lewis. It's number 8 before we get to the P. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis. Please go ahead.
I know that the district lease is up in 214. We know the exact date, what date in 214 the lease is up?
It's August 2014, Mr. Lewis.
For the district lease, for the building?
The lease for 2 Cedar Street. That is correct.
Okay. Now, we're paying the full amount?
Mr. Lewis, Chair, are you going to vote on the items on which there are no questions so we can put those to bed?
Yes.
And then we can deal with the items that do have questions.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Lewis, can you maybe hold that question for later on in the meeting?
Oh,
Would
so
that be
we're gonna
okay?
pull that one too?
Hmm?
All right.
Okay.
No, we're gonna pull that one too.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, what number is that? Number 8?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to pull number 8. Okay, so we have a motion to vote on numbers 1, 3, 4 through 7, 9 through 19. I'm sorry, 9 through 20, 22, 23, 26 through 33, 36 through 40, 42, 44, 46 through 48.
Motion.
Is there a second? Did you have a question or you were second?
Well, I don't think that's, I mean, is that accurate? I don't think that's I don't think, Madam Chair, what you read is, because I just want to make sure the minutes are clear.
Okay, so you want to go back over those
Well,
numbers?
Yes, please. I thought,
Okay, so,
yeah.
okay, we're looking at,
I mean, up through P15, but I thought,
no, we have, no, okay. We have 1 through 7. This is before we get to the Ps. Then we have 9. I'm sorry, 9, and I'm looking at item numbers, not the P. Okay. Then we have 9 through 20, 22 and 23, 26 through 33.
so we're pulling out 34.
Was 34 requested to be pulled? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So then we're going 26 through 40. Thank you. Okay, and then 42, 44, and 46 through 48. Thank you. So the motion is by Ms. Mathias. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Jeffries.
This is a motion to take these. This is a motion to take these items as a package. Finance items 1 through 7, 9 through 20, 22, 23, 26 through 40, 42, 44, 46 through 48. Moved by Mathias, second by Jeffries. Motion to take them as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That motion carries.
We now need a motion to vote on the items.
Motion.
Second.
Motion. Okay, motion, Ms. Pintor, and second, Mr. Kenny.
Okay, motion to vote on these items, moved by Pinto Marin, second by Mr. Kenny. Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Mathias?
Yes.
Dr. McCreary?
Yes.
Ms. Pinto Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Spate? Yes. Ms. Baskerville-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Pulled items remain.
We're now looking at item number 8. Any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
My question is, how are we paying the full price of each employee who park in the lot? And if not, who are we paying for fully, and who are we not paying for fully to park in the parking lot?
The district has entered into a parking agreement, or is seeking to enter into a parking agreement with Central Parking Systems located at the Military Park facility. For the last probably 6 to 7 years, since Superintendent Bolden's tenure, we have subsidized employee parking. The employees who park in this lot are predominantly the employees who work at 2 Cedar Street. It involves clerical support staff, other levels of staff. It provides a subsidized parking for both monthly and daily. We have entered into multi-year agreements, which affords us the ability to negotiate a discount and to be able to retain prices at a constant level. We are now entering into a new parking agreement because the current parking lot located at West Park, operated by Edison Parking Systems, will cease to exist effective August 31st, 2012, as a result of Prudential's planned expansion for their tower, which goes from Cedar to New Street.
So are we paying, my question is, are we paying for anybody fully, like monthly, for anybody, any employee?
Not in this lot.
Not in this lot?
No.
So it's just discount rates?
The rates are discounted. As you can see in the resolution, it indicates that the monthly parking rate is made up of a $35 rate paid by the district and a $95 rate paid by the employee. So the total there would be 100 and 130 bucks, right? Just about. And the daily parking, which is available only to employees, not to vendors or other visitors to the 2 Cedar Street facility, is a daily rate of $2 with a daily rate paid by the district paid and $6 by the employee. These are also significantly reduced rates based on what the market rates are for parking in the downtown area.
Okay.
Yes, any other questions on item number 8? The motion? We have a motion to vote on item number 8. Ms. Mathias?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Mathias, second by Mr. Kenny. For finance item number 8, the parking agreement, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Item 21, which is P11, renewal of feasibility study to generate new revenue for existing assets. Questions?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Ms. Mathias? Ms. Mathias and then Mr. Jeffries.
So last week, I know Mr. Jeffries had some good comments and questions about the health risks, and we did receive information from the district that provided an overview of cell tower usage. I just would want to know if the district has ever thought about doing a study to see what the actual radiation levels are in those schools that do have the cell towers now.
No, we have not thought about doing a study. The decisions made to install cell antenna, let me not say towers because they're not towers, they're antenna, of which there is a difference. The decision to install antennas was made based on both the efficacy and health and safety information available in terms of those antenna. So the district did not see a need to do a feasibility study on the amount of radiation emitted because there is significant industry documentation on that.
I mean, I'll defer to my other colleagues, but I think that might be something that we want to do before we look to expand the program.
Okay. So noted.
Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
I share in my colleagues' concern. I personally can't vote to support this until I see definitive evidence that there's absolutely no health risk to children. Obviously, everyone up here is deeply committed to the health of our kids. The materials, I haven't personally had an opportunity to digest the materials that were made available to us today, in the last few days, and I personally would like to do that, and to have just frankly absolute certainty that there isn't any risk, whether it's cancer or anything else. I mean, the materials here seem to be pretty clear that there apparently isn't a cancer risk. But I frankly would like a little bit more time to digest this, to be absolutely certain, that we're not exposing students to any, frankly, increase in any health risk whatsoever.
Let me provide one point of clarity for the board. The particular contract that you are voting on this evening, is not to install antenna. It is the management services associated with all of the antenna that we have, which is why I provided you with information surrounding the tasks, the responsibilities, and the roles played by the individual who will be doing this work. So it's associated with the contract itself. It is not to install other towers. So hearing your concerns, I just wanted to provide that point of clarity.
Would this what we have now, would this be the kind of district's full sense of the extent to which there's any health risk with these towers? Because I understand what you're saying about this contract. This is just a maintenance contract.
No, it's not a maintenance contract. It is a service contract.
It's a service contract. But for me, it raised the broader issue about the fact that we have, I think you said 16 towers?
Right now, I gave you a chart that indicated actually the schools in which tower antenna, you're making me say towers, antenna exist. I gave you the install dates. They were actually installed since '07 and have gone through, the latest one was installed in June of 2010. I have given you their monthly rental. I've given you their escalation clause, their current rental rates, and their revenue by school and total through the entire process that we've had. I think we're in our 6th year of this particular initiative.
Would there be any risk to tabling this until we get a bit more health issues?
The only risk, but the only exposure you create for the district is that I will not have someone to service this contract at this point in time. So since we don't incur confirming orders, there will be no work done until this contract is approved.
Well, could I do this? Because since this is a service contract and doesn't deal with the underlying issue, could we get more data before the next meeting? And I say this not only as a board member, but as a parent. I have children who walk into the doors of George Washington Carver every day. And so I'm very concerned not only for my own kids, but all kids, to be absolutely certain. And frankly, the information I have right now doesn't give me that confidence. So if there's more evidence that we can get, I would greatly appreciate that. Given what you said, I won't have a problem voting on the service contract, but I would like to get more evidence about the health risk of these towers altogether, because if we can't be certain their health, that they don't create a health issue, we may want to revisit, do we want to have these towers on our building?
There are actually 2 that we have had pending for a while, Peshine and Verona, and we will get you more data as you have requested. And those contracts, like all others, would come before this board before they would go any further.
Those would be for new towers at those schools?
If we go forward with them.
Okay.
But we will provide you additional data. If you could provide me some specificity around what additional stuff you might need, but I will do a hunt and search for what's out there.
Great. I just want to know that it's no help.
Not a problem. I
Not even a tiny
clearly understand your concern. I am a parent and therefore understand.
Mr. Kenny? Please don't shout out. Mr. Kenny?
And I echo what my board colleagues were shared regarding the cell towers, because I noticed the schools, I'm not sure if anyone has the report, if it was given out in the audience, but it's South 17th Street, Miller Street, George Washington Carver, West Side, Avon, Alexander Street, Hawthorne, Abington, Martin Luther King School, Peshine Avenue, and Verona is pending, or indicates the school's leases executed, but the sites have not been built. My point is that a lot of these areas are high poverty areas, and apparently there are no definitive studies as of right now as to the risk that's involved, and it's just not with Newark Public Schools, but because mobile cell phone towers also use private companies, private buildings, other facilities to make sure that they have clear usage in high concentrated areas. We don't know what those risks are. at this present moment. We don't know just not the students inside that particular school, but we also talk about the neighborhood that is exposed to the spill off of possible radiation. And in particular, South 17th Street I'm looking at, and also Westside High School, it seems like you have 2 cell phone tower companies that have a high usage on that particular building, on those 2 particular buildings in that neighborhood, and it just gives me some caution. And I know this is not the vote that we want to vote on, but I do think we should, as a district, look at other creative ways to generate revenue for our district than leasing space. And I think I think we said this last week. I just want the same standards in other neighborhoods that we want in the city of Newark. So if other neighborhoods don't want cell phone towers, you know, because of the potential risk, I'd rather err on the side of caution than talk about intervention as to how we can remediate issues that already occur versus preventing issues before they actually occur.
Mr. Kenny, one of the things that's come to mind as you've been speaking is I have data on the number of antenna installed throughout the city of Newark. I will be sure to include that for the board as the next piece of their review.
No, go ahead, Mr. Jeffries.
Well, I just have one last question on that. So, Ms. Wilson, is it the case that the T-Mobile lease at South 17th, the lease for Miller, the lease for Carver, the T-Mobile lease at Westside, all of those will expire in December?
They will, and they have options for renewal, and there are some legalities associated with our deciding not to renew those at that time. So that would have to be discussed further with the board.
Okay. But with those, before the district would renew, those options will come back to the board?
Yes, they would.
Okay, great. So in connection with that, can you get this additional? Absolutely.
But you'll get the information I promised before that. Okay.
I'm sorry, one last question. Does the district conduct indoor air quality studies on the schools regularly?
I wouldn't say there are some requirements for indoor air quality handling. Steve, I see you in the back. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the requirements are? But whenever there is a complaint, I know that we do, but there's also a regulatory issue that we address. Can you discuss that briefly, Mr. Morlino?
Sure. Good evening. The New Jersey State adopted an indoor air quality regulation in 2006 that requires every school district to implement a plan. We have a written plan for every school. It's in place in every school, available to anybody who asks to see it. And it has certain parameters and guidelines for indoor air quality regulations and protocol. We don't do any regular testing. It's extremely expensive. Whenever there's a complaint, we investigate the complaint. We do a survey at the location where the complaint originates to determine if the complaint is from a particular occupant or a particular wing or a string of school classrooms, etc., to try and identify where the problem might be, and then we take it from there. We have environmental consultants on staff. We also have the ability to call the county health department in to bring in instrumentation to do some studies, and if we need additional studies, we pay for that through our environmental consultant, who's an on-demand contract that we have.
Okay, so then my request would just be if we can get an idea of how much it would cost to do indoor air quality testing at the schools where these cell phone antennas are, even if we can't do the radiation testing, especially since some of these will be ending very soon and they may come before us again. But I think that's very important. We need to know how much this is going to cost, and I think that that's a priority that we should make for the district.
There's two distinct differences in what you're asking for. Indoor air quality really is not related to RF energy, which is what's produced from a cell tower. And the fall off in general from a cell antenna is about 10 feet from the antenna below and a circular motion around that antenna. There is no RF energy after about 10 feet. But we can produce studies that have been done across the nation on this and bring that data to you. But indoor air quality is something totally different from the RF energy from the
I understand that.
sites. So we can get a price on what it might be to actually do a study of the RF energy.
Thank you.
Dr. McCreary? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I can just, I guess, add on to this. The importance and the need of the study and the validity of it is one. I would also just challenge and push that if the studies are going to be done in the sites where these cell phone towers are located, maybe we can take random 4 or 5 schools that don't have, so that we have like a baseline to compare what the air quality is, radiation factors, whatever, so that we can identify what we're actually talking about.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. McCreary. Yes.
Yeah, and to add on to what Dr. McCreary stated, I know the city of Newark, we have a number of sites that are toxic, whether they are brownfields, there are spill off from old manufacturing companies that enclaved, or even oil tanks and grounds that spilled out or leaked. And I think the greater caution is to majority of people on here are parents, and about the risk factors that we are exposing to our young people. And again, I know you want the best because you work here. We want the best because we also live here at the same time. So, but there's information that I sent to your attention. I'm not sure if it's relevant to this conversation regarding what the FCC does in terms of, because they stated that they don't have the manpower to actually do testing on a regular basis, only when complaints occur, just like Mr. Molino stated. But I'm not sure if we have the capacity in conjunction with FCC to ask them to come out and just do those testing, so we know exactly what we're doing going forward, whether we want to renew these leases or have them removed, because it's my intention to have them removed. I'm not sure, and as whatever risk it is, I don't know, but I'd rather, again, side on air caution, versus, continue to put our young people around these toxic elements that exist in the city of Newark.
Thank you. I think it's noted, everyone's comments are noted in terms of the board and the district being vigilant, pursuing the possibility of all the testing that's been suggested. The item, and just for my clarity, again, the item that we are voting on, however, is not more antenna or whether or not to put antenna, but it's simply on the maintenance of the antenna that now exists. Is that it?
It is management of the contract. So
Okay.
in terms of that, gathering the data you needed, gathering the information on all of the stuff that we put together in terms of how many leases we have, what the monies associated with that. This person also deals with the carriers. If we decide, we've done it through a competitive bid process whenever we have done it. So we would put an RFP out, managing the collection of that RFP, the bid array, all of those kinds of things. So it is a service contract, not maintenance of the antenna.
Thank you for that clarity. Is there a readiness to vote on this issue? Is there a motion? Motion, Ms. Matthias, second, Ms. Pintor.
Okay. This motion for finance item number 21, moved by Ms. Matthias, second by Ms. Pintor. Mr. Jeffries? Yes. Mr. Kenny?
No.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Ms. Matthias?
Oh, yes.
Dr. McCreary?
Yes.
Ms. Pinto-Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Spate? Ms. Bashford-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're now moving to item 24, which is P14, medical consultant. Questions? Any questions? No? Okay. I'd just like to, just to note, not on this particular consultant, but just in reference to consultants, there are certainly legitimate concerns that board members and community have regarding consultants in the district now. However, I just wanted to say that the term consultant or the designation of consultant is one that is a pretty broad, from my understanding, a pretty broad term, and it encompasses some people who are very highly paid, as well as some people, for example, that I know, the people who run, for example, the Mike It Up program, or some people who work in after-school programs who may just be consultants who work directly with our students and may earn, $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 a year. So I just I just want to say that all consultants are not necessarily the highly paid consultants that we think of when we say that word. So when, just to say, Mr. Lewis, that when we say all consultants that, we could, not in this case, but in other cases, that we can also be talking about people, who we might actually need to work directly with the students. So it's just, just a point of clarity on the use of that word. Yes.
Can we just have Ms. Wilson, because I'm very sensitive to transparency, can we just have Ms. Wilson describe what this is? Because I understand this is a medical consultant to provide special needs services to kids with educational disabilities.
That is correct, as explained by Dr. Katzman last week.
But not everybody may have been here last week, so
You
could
want-
you explain?
Okay.
Right, to the-
Please do not yell out. Excuse me, we cannot have people yelling out during the meeting.
The medical consultant is for a neurologist to provide us support, more specialized support for evaluating students with disabilities or re-evaluating students with disabilities when our educational consultants are not, when we need to go deeper, we need more specialized service for kids with maybe Williams syndrome or a few different disabilities happening at one time. We're trying to understand what to do that's best for them. Most other cities, the parents would pay for this, and it's very expensive, and I'm actually very proud that we do this here. It's a really amazing opportunity and option for our parents.
It has been my understanding, I know we've had issues with providing services to kids who have an IEP, so it seems to me we can't afford to not have any resources to make sure the kids get the services that they need.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Lewis?
Before you do the motion, I just wanted to say, I believe that my request is just as urgent as anybody else's. Just because this request came from Marquise Aquila Lewis, it should have been handled in an urgent matter like I requested. I think that sometimes I believe, this is my theory, maybe it's not true. If it's not true, you could tell me it's not true. I think when I ask for things, I think it's a lack of urgency.
Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry, what request are you referring to?
I'm talking about my request on the list of consultants that I've been asking for almost 2 years. I think it's disrespectful when we as board members have to find out about certain consultants through the newspaper. And that's what raised my eye on this issue, why I wanted the consultant list, how many consultants we have in this district. And when I asked before, I got a consultant list, it was only 2 people on there when I knew it was way more than 2 consultants in this district. So until I get my consultant list, I will not vote on no consultants in this district.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Yes,
Mr.
Ms.
Lewis, the list you have requested is significant in length and requires significant time to run it. It is not, excuse me, it is not that your request is being ignored. In previous requests, I myself have provided that list to members of the Finance Committee who are sitting here. You will have that list, and we are in the process of running it. Okay?
Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Thank you. Ms. Pintor, second. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Kinney?
This motion for finance item number 24, the medical neuropsychiatrist to provide services to children, moved by Ms. Pinto-Marin and second by Mr. Kenny. Mr. Jeffries?
Yes.
Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Abstain.
Ms. Matias?
Yes.
Dr. McCreary?
Yes.
Ms. Pinto-Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Spate?
Yes.
Ms. Baskerville-Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 25, P15, Labor Relations Consultant. Questions? Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, you have a question?
I think that this was one of the items that Mr. Lewis also pulled out. I don't have any questions. I don't know if anybody else does.
Questions? Okay. Is there,
Maybe
yes, Mr. Kenny?
for clarification, this is for labor relations for CASA or what is?
As the district has approximately 8 unions, various groups, whether it's teachers, principals and administrators, custodians, custodial workers, clerical staff, security guards, et cetera, food service workers. There are significant duties involved or responsibilities in managing those contracts, in negotiating them, and I should add that all of the district's union contracts at this point in time are expired and are under some form of negotiation. There is also discipline associated with the daily management of a staff of almost 7,000, which is what the district's employee base is. This consultant in particular has significant experience in labor relations, has negotiated several of our contracts over the years. At some point was the district's labor relations director and has since provided services to the district on an as-needed basis to supplement our current labor relations staff.
Any other questions?
No.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Spade.
Yes, Spade.
This is a motion for finance item number 25, labor relations specialist, moved by Pinto Marin, second by Mrs. Spade. Mr. Jeffries.
Yes.
Mr. Kenny.
I abstain.
Mr. Lewis.
Abstain.
Ms. Matias.
Yes.
Dr. McCreary.
Yes.
Ms. Pinto Marin.
Yes.
Ms. Spade.
Yes.
Ms. Baskerville-Richardson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 41, P31, pre-qualification solicitation for strategic school design. Questions?
Question,
Yes.
discussion on
P31.
item 41, P31.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jeffries. I'm sorry, Mr. Jeffries,
No,
and
please,
then Ms. Matthias.
Well, I would
Somebody
just
go.
like, since we didn't have this resolution in our packet last week, can someone just explain, kind of what this is and what it's designed to do?
The district was looking or is looking and will continue to do that for several other times during the course of the year to expedite the availability of services that would be available. In this case, it is specific to strategic school design associated, I think, predominantly at this point with the Renew schools, if I'm not mistaken, but it will be open to all schools throughout the district. It provides schools with the opportunity to select partners who will help them in designing what their school curriculum is going to look like, what their, what their structure of their school will be, possibly determining what kind of positions they may need, helping them with budgeting. Think of it more as a coach and a mentor for principals in terms of getting that stuff done. So what the district did was go out to a number of vendors. It was an open bid solicitation to a number of vendors who we are in turn pre-qualifying, very much like the SDA pre-qualifies construction vendors. So that pre-qualification allows these vendors who have met very specific standards in terms of pricing, in terms of quality, in terms of consistency of the products they will provide, and are pre-qualified so that it is easy for schools to then select who they might want to work with. So this will come before the board on several different occasions. There will be a number of partners that will be identified through this process. This is the first of such. We will be doing this, I think, also with professional development and some other areas specific to supporting schools.
Just to add, The PQS process, which we described to the board previously, allows, when we move to weighted student funding means that every single school gets a certain amount of money, depending on their student population, and certain students who are in higher need have more weights than others. Schools got those monies, and as long as they meet class size mandates, they have a lot more flexibility in doing what they need to do at the school level. To assist in that process, we did a pre-qualification system for anything having to do with design, having to do with professional development, which means that anyone who's in that pool, the principal is allowed to pick from that pool. And so this is an opportunity to drive decision-making down to the school, but also to do so with a quality and an efficiency bar, but also to let those principals choose from a hand-picked group of individuals who met a quality and pricing efficiency bar.
And are these options for now at least only available to the Renew schools, or is this broadly available to principals throughout the
The
schools?
PQS process is throughout. It is the case that Renew schools will have specific ones that are selected more readily than others. So because we want to make sure that they come out the gate with very explicit partnerships in place, other schools may choose to select them and adjust them throughout the year. Depends on the availability of their budget. Some schools decided to spend more on personnel. Some schools decided they may want to spend more on, PD. As long as they met, special education and class size guidelines, which was, of course, a lockbox. There was a lot more flexibility this year. The PQS process paves the way for principals to then be able to do decision-making, but not a free-for-all, ones that only meet the PQS criterion, which include quality, proven track record, and cost efficiencies.
Okay, great. So the ones we're voting on today, so these four providers, so any principal who wants to work with them to the extent he or she has in their budget would be able to work with these
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the idea of the PQS, which is in line with the procurement guidelines that are set forth in the state, requires us to do all the due diligence up front, but then it just allows more efficiency for the principal, funds borrowing, able to make those matches more efficiently.
And then last question I have, so for the school to pay for that comes out their school-based budget? Is that the?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and in the case of Renew, there were some instances where we budgeted more for the initial setup, but yes, the school has more flexibility over how they assign resources, again, provided they meet those basic mandates.
Okay, I'm not going to do the Renew schools have to choose one of these? Is that?
Depends on which partner you're talking about. Renew schools will all, no, not this particular partner. We have certain things in the Renew schools that everyone's doing that were selected as part of the PQS, not this particular resolution. So no, this particular one, no.
Were there any providers who were considered who had any universities or anything like that? I mean, I'm just wondering why these.
The PQS is not completed. It's something we're running ongoing, but it was PQS by definition is open to everyone. And several universities, also apply, community-based organizations, nonprofits. I mean, they're open. PQS has to be posted. Folks can apply. And we will continue to update the PQS process so we get as many high-quality options and providers in the pool as possible so that we give principals more choice, but that also we keep a high-quality bar.
We anticipate doing it several times throughout the year, Ms. Bascova, which would add additional vendors. And I would anticipate that we will probably do it on an annual basis. These are not contracts that go on ad infinitum indefinitely.
Okay. So does a school have to use a provider, or can a school, and I know this question doesn't pertain to this specifically, but can a school do all of this themselves?
So a school can work with an outside organization. This is a little bit to Board Member Kenny's question. There are outside organizations that are nonprofits that have their own budget, their own funding that schools can partner with. If the district contract services, they have to go through the PQS process. And in part, the PQS process is an opportunity to try to, have a consistent quality bar that gets a pipeline of options that schools can pick from.
But they must pick one, is what I'm getting.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, it just gives you another option. But it also might be, sometimes partnerships come with their own funding. They may not want to fund it out of their school budget. It might be that it's funded through a grant directly to, say, that university. So no, they don't. They do not.
So basically, none of these groups here that we are voting on are guaranteed to actually
They aren't. They aren't
make
carried.
any money.
That is correct.
Correct.